Hi, this is Gary Hancock. I want to show you how to import outcomes or standards into your course here at Star Valley High School. I'm on a test server and I'm in one of Tyrell's classes just for demonstration purposes. It won't trash anything in his class. So to do that, I'm going to go down to Outcomes. Outcomes is their term for standards. And in this window, I'm going to click Find. I want to go out and find standards. This is important. We're going to click on Account Standards. Don't click on Common Core, but click on Account Standards. Star Valley High School, and we're going to go to Science right here, 912. And I don't know, this sounds good for Tyrell. From molecules to whatever. And here are the different standards we can import. Now I can import this whole folder if I want, just by coming down here and hitting the import button, or I can import them individually. The important thing here is you don't import more than you need. I'll show you why later on, but just take those you're going to be testing. To make it simple, I'm just going to be on this folder and I'm going to import those into the folder. Again, like I said, you can import individual ones by clicking on them and saying import, but we'll do the folder in this case. Import, say OK, and those are now in Tyrell's class. In this part, we're going to learn how to create question banks and align them to outcomes. So I'm going to come over here and click on HS, and I'm going to just highlight this and maybe part of that. I'm going to copy that just when I rename my question banks. So I'm going to come to quizzes. Here we go, in this particular course. And on this little gear up in the top right hand, I'm going to come down to manage question banks, and I'm going to add a question bank. And I'm just going to paste that in. It will make a little more sense as we do that. Now there's no button to say save, so you hit enter or return on your computer, and that creates the question bank. I'm going to add another question bank, and I'll call that one HS-LS 1-1, and I could put an explanation. I'm going to hit return again. The reason I'm naming these the same as the outcome is it just makes it easier finding them and using that in test creation. Okay, so let me go ahead and click on this one here. I'm going to align this to an outcome, and I'm going to come in here, click Align Outcomes from molecule to cells, HS-1. And if I scroll down here underneath, I hope I can get that. Let me stretch. I'm going to have to stretch my window down because this is a test server and I can't fit it in there. No. Okay, import. There we go. Import. Okay. There's an import button down there. You might not have seen that, but below that you click the import button, and it is tied to this one, mastery at 60%. Let me go back up here to the top question banks, and I'm going to edit this one because, let me go down here, edit this one. Sorry about that. I'll call this one -2 is which I should have done. Hit return. I'm going to click on this one, and again I'm going to align an outcome. And -2, and there's a button down here, import button, that you can't see in the screen, but it's there, and import that, and it's aligned to that. So that's basically how you create question banks and align outcomes after you've imported those outcomes. Okay, our next step is to add questions to the question banks that we just created. I'll go question banks here. These are the two I've created. This is one that Tyrell had. And let's go to unfiled questions. So every quiz that you make and create, the questions are going to go into the unfiled questions question bank, and we're going to pull those out. So a couple ways you could do it. I could click on this one, and up here there's add a question. So I get the same dialog box I do creating question, and so you can create questions either by copying and pasting or building them yourself. Same thing as you do in a quiz. I'll hit cancel here. So that's one way to get them in. Another way is to go to the question bank that you want to move them from. In this case it's unfiled questions because there's already been questions created. Click on this one. It's going to open up. There's a bunch here. And I have this option, move multiple questions. So it gives me all the questions that, in this case, Tyrell's come up with. So I'm going to say this one would test at this one, and I'm making this up as I'm going. But so I've got 4 questions that would go along with HS-LS1-1. And now I'm going to hit move questions. When I hit move questions, it's going to take them out of this question bank and put them in that question bank. So I'm just going to hit move questions. Now as I come back to question banks, you'll notice that this one has 4 questions and this one has 4 fewer questions. It moves it out. So you can move questions that way. I'm going to come back to unfiled. So again, that moves multiple. I can also do this way. I can go to individual questions, click on here and say, oh, this one's going to go here. Now if this is checked, it's going to say keep a copy in this question bank, and I don't want to do that in this case. So I'm going to uncheck it. Say move copy questions, and this one we will move here. And if I wanted to keep a copy, I would have that moved. This again is a test server. So this is one by one, moving them that way. So that's all there is to it. Again, you can create a question, you can move multiples, or you can move them one by one to get them into the question banks that you have. In this part, we're going to talk about creating a quiz from the question banks that we created that have questions tied to outcomes. So I'm going to come to quizzes in this particular course, Tyrell's. And I'm going to add a quiz. And here I would fill in the details as you know how to do. I'm going to come over to questions right here though. And instead of creating a new question, I'm going to find questions. And so this is where you'll be happy you didn't import in a lot of different files. Okay, so here we go. A lot of different outcomes because they all show up here. And I'm going to say, okay, here's this one, -1. And I need this question and this question. For this particular test, I'm going to just go add questions. It's going to show up here. Again, I'll do find questions, and then I want to test 2, and this one I'll take all 3 questions and add selected questions. So I'm building my test, and these are all going to be tied to that. The other thing I can do is if I need to move this around, this one has a number 1 on it, so we're going to say, okay, that's going to be up in number 1 position. This one, click on these dots right here, 8 dots, and this is going to go down, and it's going to be the last question. So you can update the order, you can bring in more tests. So when you're bringing it in this way, they're already tied to the outcomes. I'm going to go ahead and I'll give it a testing. We'll call it testing, and go ahead and hit save and publish. No one will see it. And that test is ready to go, and they'll be tied to outcomes. Now, after you've done that, if you go into grades, here's all of Tyrell's grades. I'm going to come over here on the Learning Mastery tab. And those, oops, Learning Mastery, let me get back there. Those outcomes that have been brought in are going to be tested, and as students are tested either with a rubric or with a quiz, there'll be numbers and there'll be these colors here that show whether they're exceeding mastery, meeting it, near, or well below. As you hover over there, a pie chart will appear showing you how your kids are doing that. If I just want to see those that are near mastery or below, I can uncheck those, and those will be the ones that show up. And then these would, of course, hopefully be used in the PLC groups. So that's basically what we covered in the Campfire.